With recent reports from Ukraine, the situation is terrifying for the country. Even though the U.S. Senate has approved a large foreign aid plan that provides $60 billion in military and economic help to Ukraine, the country is collapsing. There is a shortage of weapons and military resources, and since January, Russia has been advancing faster than expected. The USA has just sent weapons, and the EU is preparing to send troops to Ukraine very soon. But is it too late? Recent reports from Ukraine describe the horrifying situation there. So let's explain everything. So finally, soldiers fighting in Ukraine are encouraged by the U.S. Congress's final approval of a $60 billion military aid package for Kyiv as Russia increases its attacks. President Joe Biden signed the bill after it received strong support from both political parties in the Senate. This will allow the USA to quickly send weapons and supplies to Ukraine to address their immediate needs on the battlefield. But the question is this package coming too late for Ukraine? Recently, Ukraine has been on the back foot. Because of its shortage of weapons, Russia has capitalized. For months, Ukrainian soldiers on the front lines have reported that Russian forces significantly outpower them. In fact, in recent months, Ukraine has struggled with a significant shortage of weapons, which has allowed Russia to gain the upper hand. Russia has been attacking critical national infrastructure around the country, targeting cities and frontline areas. The activity of the Russian Air Force has notably increased, capitalizing on Ukraine's diminished air defense capabilities due to the missile shortage. For a while, Ukraine's situation seemed stuck, but it has gotten worse since January. Russia has been pushing harder in the battle and has harshly targeted civilians by attacking power stations and cutting off electricity. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, has suffered a lot, with its 3 main power plants seriously damaged. Moreover, Russia has been hitting the 600-mile battle line hard. In February, Ukrainian forces pulled back from Avdiivka, giving Moscow its most significant win since it took Bakhmut in May 2023. Russia's air defense shot down 17 Ukrainian drones, according to the Defense Ministry. The drones aimed at an oil storage site in the Kaluga area, near Moscow, said Vladislav Shapsha, the regional governor of Kaluga. Russian forces are now focusing on capturing Chasiv Yar, a small but strategically important town on a hill in eastern Ukraine. This effort is part of Russia's push to make its biggest progress in the war since the summer of 2022. Chasiv Yar is only about 5 square miles in size, but taking it would give the Russians high ground to directly attack the main cluster of cities still under Ukrainian control in the Donetsk region. This includes the Ukrainian Eastern Command Center in Kramatorsk. If Russian troops capture Chasiv Yar, they will be just about 10 miles away from Kostiantynivka, a crucial supply point for Ukrainian forces in the east. But Russia also had massive causalities. Over 50,000 Russian soldiers have died in the war against Ukraine, reports say. The BBC, along with other groups, has been tracking these numbers since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022. They announced this total recently, pointing out that more soldiers died in the second year of the war, with 27,300 deaths, which is 25% more than in the first year. Now the question is, how Ukraine will use this $60 billion? The challenge is to convert $60 billion into weapons, and it will take time. The Pentagon quickly shared that it would send over 20 different types of weapons and military gear to Ukraine, worth about $1 billion in this first round. Among the items, 2 are crucial according to Ukraine. First, artillery shells. Much of the fighting in eastern Ukraine involves heavy use of artillery, and Russia has a significant lead here. Ukrainian forces say Russian artillery fires up to 10 times more than theirs. Due to this, Ukraine often has to limit how many shells they use, and sometimes they run out completely, forcing them to withdraw. This has let Russia take the offensive in recent times. The second essential item is air defense missiles. Although Ukraine's air defenses have been strong for the last 2 years, attacks on cities and the power grid have increased. President Volodymyr Zelensky mentioned that Russia recently launched 11 missiles at a civilian power station near Kyiv. Ukraine managed to shoot down the first 7 missiles, but then they ran out of missiles, and the remaining 4 hit the power plant, causing blackouts. Ukraine's ground forces commander, Oleksandr Pavlyuk, said on TV that their main aim is to secure the front lines and get ready to strike back in 2024. Ukrainian troops recently had to leave some areas in Donetsk, including a key city called Avdiivka, because they didn't have enough ammunition. This problem got worse because help from the US was delayed as Russian forces push forward. They're using lots of military gear and making mass attacks with their troops. Pavlyuk described the situation at the front as tough but manageable. He explained that Russia is trying to take over as much land as they can before their presidential elections, putting a lot of their troops into these attacks. He mentioned that Russia is also sending new, untrained soldiers to the front to try to gain an upper hand. Our aim is to hold the front steady, hit the enemy hard, regroup our forces, train them for an attack, and then go on the offensive this year, Pavliuk stated. With that, Putin warned the West that Russia is prepared for nuclear war, and that sending U.S. troops to Ukraine would greatly increase tensions. Putin also mentioned that a nuclear war is not imminent, and he doesn't see the need to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Putin confirmed on Russia 1 television and RIA news agency that Russia is ready for a nuclear conflict if necessary. He explained that if the U.S. stationed troops in Russia or Ukraine, Russia would view it as an aggressive act. Moscow has incorporated 4 Ukrainian regions, claiming them as part of Russia, but it seems like the West does not seem to care. For example, the French president surprised everyone by suggesting the idea of sending Western soldiers to fight in Ukraine, which is usually avoided. Macron said at a meeting in Paris last week with Ukraine's supporters, "There is no agreement right now to send ground troops, but we shouldn't dismiss any options. And for now, no one knows if the EU will send the troops or not." And that's it for today. Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell.